Hi, my name is Dylan, and I'm going to tell you why Avenged Sevenfold really does suck. As you all know, or have all seen, Muck Fettlecore's why Avenged Sevenfold sucks, and he's making his whole case and argument about them being fags and dressing weird or dressing gaily, if gaily is a word, but it really doesn't have anything all too intelligent to make a point other than maybe the fact that they're mainstream and um, really that's it really. But I wouldn't necessarily call them Guns N' Roses rip-offs. They've kind of have their own. Guns N' Roses have their own kind of place in history, especially their music was popular and during their time period. And I guess you can make the same argument for Avenged Sevenfold, but they really took a weird turn in their history, and Guns N' Roses never really made that kind of weird turn. But then again, when Avenged Sevenfold first started out, they were mostly considered by most people metalcore, which they started in '99, but it kind of got more popular from the early 2000s, and City of Evil came out, and they kind of shifted their whole sound, which I really wasn't too upset by that album, but that's just my personal preference. But anyways, obviously those two genres are completely different for Guns N' Roses and Avenged Sevenfold, but I digress. But anyways, the reason why they actually do suck was because they started out, a band that were well loved and kind of well hated at the same time. I mean, you had all the people in the early 2000s when metalcore is first gaining steam and popularity, and a lot of people that loved it, and there's a lot of people who absolutely fucking hated it, and for their own reasons they hated it. But I mean, I personally liked them at first. I mean, I was 12, 13 years old whenever their first stuff came out, and that was when I started listening to hardcore versions of metal, really. And I mean, like every kid my age, that was what was getting popular in the metal scene, really. And that's pretty much how it's always kind of been. You always see all the younger kids listening to the bands that most older kids or more mature tastes in metal would be like, oh, well, that band sucks. Like, I'm not going to throw any examples out there to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm already hurting enough people's feelings by telling you why Avenged Sevenfold sucks. I shouldn't say sucks. In their own right, I guess they have their own talent and whatnot, but I mean, I it's just really strange some of the arguments Mock Fettlecore makes, but the reason why they suck is because it's really dumb. I really think it's dumb where you were so popular as a metalcore band, and you felt it was necessary to make a huge jump and a huge shift in the sound, and the way you were going to play, and the type of music you were going to put out, and they lost a lot of a lot of fans and respect from a lot of other people, and I personally was one of those people. Not until after City of Evil, of course. I liked that. I was 13, 14 years old, but as I get older, I was like, oh, that's awful. But that was the first mistake that they made, was changing their sound, and I guess a lot of people say they sold out. They wanted, or they wanted a new direction in their whole music, and I mean, I guess they were just tired of writing that kind of music, which I guess happens, but it doesn't really happen quite as often now. Like, you don't really see prominent metal or metalcore bands, or any metal band in general, that is well liked, or or most common people like, that change their sound because they get tired of what they write. But I wouldn't necessarily say Avenged Sevenfold is simplistic, all because Sinister Gates is actually a fairly talented guitarist, but just their overall sound, I really wouldn't call it metal, just because I don't really think it's deserves to be called metal. It's not necessarily hard. It's not, you know, I'm making a weird cliche of dark or whatever. I mean, it's just not a metal sound. It's totally mainstream. It's on the radio all the time. And you know when radio start playing songs over and over again, they just get annoying and then you get sick of hearing songs. And I don't know a one person who can listen to one song over and over and over and over and over like 16 times a day and not eventually get sick of that song or hate that song. And then I just think their progression as a band really hasn't really changed since their switch over. They really haven't gotten any better with their music as far as as structures and writings go. It's kind of all the same base. Of course, they come out, with kind of the same structures at every song. There's always that unnecessarily long guitar solo. There's always now that their vocals are changed, it's the vocalist he doesn't really have any vocal range anymore, and a lot of people will say that that's due to the surgery he had on his throat or whatever. But it's just very flat, nothing. It's not nothing new. And when you're not innovating and making new things, you're not really staying interesting, in my opinion, and you're not really progressing as a band. Now, I'm trying to make this as valid as possible without being too judgmental and not bringing my own personal feelings too far into it, because I know people are going to read into that and like, well, that's just, you're obviously not that kind of guy to listen to that kind of music. I'm really not. The music I listen to is definitely a lot heavier than anything Avenged Sevenfold has recently put out, and probably much heavier than they've ever put out in their entire lives. And as far as him bashing the drummer, the Rev, I mean, he's not a bad drummer, but he's not amazing drummer, and the whole Golden God thing is just completely overrated and blown out the water. They don't really recognize actually good bands. They just recognize bands that everyone knows of. There's plenty of drummers out there that can outdrum the Rev, and like if you even listen to some of these bands, like I'll throw some out there, like Born of Osiris' drummer, he's fucking amazing. After the Burial, the guy from there is very good. Like, I wouldn't call him one of the best ever. I mean, there's even drummers in their own mainstream genre, or pushing close sort of mainstream, borderline mainstream, that are better than, like, Jody Jordison's his head and shoulders better than he is. So, I mean, I put him at, an above average class. He always makes another argument, what, songs does the drum stick out in, and there's a few songs that you can pick up on certain parts where or some fills or some things like that you can, you pay attention to, like in Almost Easy, he has that double bass fill in, which is, I believe was a nice fill. It was kind of because you really don't really hear a lot of double bass in mainstream metal bands, especially ones that get played on like mainstream rock radio stations that play 80s metal and Nickelback and everything like that. So, but it's just like they just aren't any good because they just put the same shit out every year, and it's just nothing's different, and they're always going to be the same. I mean, they're just putting out mainstream hit after like, it's like, don't you just get sick of listening to the same stuff over and over and over again? Like, it's strange. Like, I can't even put them at a level where Metallica took the change from all their albums up to the Black Album, how that was critically acclaimed, and a lot of people didn't like that change because it was a change towards the mainstream side, and now they're just kind of playing past their means. And all due respect to Metallica and what they've done for the music itself in the genre of metal, I really they're not really quite on that stage, but that's just another opinion of mine. But other than that, really, there's always going to be people listening to them, so I guess that's good for them. They're always going to have bands. They're always going to have album sales. They're always going to be on tour. They're always going to have merch sales. And I guess overall that draws out and shows their success. Obviously people do listen to them and people are going to love them forever. But that's just how it is. But I personally think that they suck because there's no diversity in their music. It's just, I don't know. Like the music, the stuff I listen to kind of is more complex and in my opinion takes much more skill from all musicians in the band, not just, Sinister Gates lead guitar solos is basically what they're made up of, is lead guitar solos is what makes them flashy, and that's, you don't really need guitar solos to make your band flashy. Just playing real complex, tight, technical riffs, like Job for a Cowboy, they're not gonna wow you in their solo department. Well, I mean they can, but that's not the thing that's gonna stick out to you when you hear Job for a Cowboy. Oh, guitar solos. You think Job for a Cowboy, tech metal, or or even they're overall a great band. Job for a Cowboy. They're all amazing musicians. Avenged Sevenfold, they were amazing musicians at one point, and then they kind of decided to stay where they were and not really progress anything. And they're just kind of hanging out where they are. And I guess, it must be nice, being recognized, and I guess winning all these Golden God awards and going on tour with all these other mainstream sellout bands that everyone listens to. But I guess they make a nice living for themselves, and I guess in the end, making your living for yourself is the most important thing. It's kind of when they switched over, it was kind of more of a PR move than it was anything else. So, I'm probably gonna take a lot of heat for this, but hopefully I can get some respect from some people that may be able to say, what. Avenged Sevenfold, people will be like, I like Avenged Sevenfold, but, at least you make a somewhat valid argument statement other than they're gay and they look like fags and the rep sucks and all these other terrible comments. At least I try using logic and reasoning. And I try using some examples of other bands and trying a comparison of as far as musical talent goes. Not everyone's a Job for a Cowboy fan. Not everyone's a Born of Osiris fan. Not everyone's a fan of After the Burial or any other. I can just go on days and for listing bands that I listen to but I listen to a wide variety of metal, but it's kind of all in the same grouping really. But I can just go on, but then again, not everyone's an Avenged Sevenfold fan, such as myself. I was when I was a kid, but I got older and I started listening to heavier stuff and appreciating what real talent is, or more honed and harnessed talent is, as opposed to what was talent and now is just half-assed. In my opinion, their music is half-assed. So yeah, that's what I have to say. Probably everyone's gonna hate me, and I'm probably gonna get tons of dislikes. And there's probably gonna be people making response videos to telling me why my argument's invalid, or finding some stupid reason to call out, or whatever. But hey, at least I'm not going out and making offensive comments, or so. I hope some of you may enjoy this, and some of you may agree, some may disagree. Some of you guys probably didn't enjoy this, but at least some of you can say that I didn't make any unnecessary comments about the band that, on a personal level, as far as making terms about them being fags or using the excessive swear words or being disrespectful to a man that is no longer with us or alive. So that's all I gotta say, and I'll be looking forward to see what everyone's responses are. See you next time.